All my life, I will sing of the goodness of God. In my front yard, I have a huge bur oak tree. There's a picture of my house, and there's my tree. It is awesome. It is huge. The canopy that you see covers at least half of my house. Go to the next picture. The trunk. I can only reach a little over halfway around the trunk of the tree because it is so big. And the acorns, the next one, are huge. I actually made a necklace out of one of the acorns. And they'll be falling in about a month. If you're looking for something to do, come by the house and you can pick up a few 100,000 of them. Isn't that right, honey? Yes. One author said of the bur oak, it is mighty and it's majestic. And it certainly is that in my front yard. Now, the benefit of the bur oak tree for me, one, for the beauty. I just feel like it increases the value of my house because you drive up and you go, wow, look at that beautiful tree. Look at that beautiful tree. Not house first. You got to see the tree first. And then it helps in these hot summer days because it covers about half of my house. So I just believe, at least I tell myself, my electricity bill is better because of that. And then it protects my house. This bur oak, we had a hailstorm about 4 years ago, and the adjuster came out and he said, all that under the tree, I don't see any damage there. This other part of the house, it has damage. He only wanted to do half of it. Finally, he declared the whole house was bad. So that was a whole different story. But it protects about half of my house. It is huge. And the thing I want you to know is I did not plant that tree. But I am thankful and blessed because of the person who planted that tree. The result, whoever planted my tree really planted a lasting, long legacy of blessing to multiple generations of homeowners in that house. You probably heard the saying, someone is planting a tree today that they will never sit under. They plant it today, it'll grow through the days to come, and they will die, but someone else will have the blessing in future generations of sitting under that tree. In light of my bur oak and that adage, it causes me to pause and ponder a little bit my own life. In about a month, I will turn 66. I know that stuns you. You thought I was 56, I'm sure. But I'll turn 66. And as I get older, as I know many of you do, you begin to ponder your life and what impact and what influence will be left as a husband, as a father and a grandfather, as a co-worker together. I'm a baseball coach with my grandsons. What legacy will be left there as well? Don't miss it. The truth is, we are all in the midst of leaving a legacy by how we live our life. We must plant to ensure a generational blessing of a legacy. And I think Psalm 145 gives us how to do that. Turn there with me if you would. Psalm 145. What a blessing always to be with you at Broadview. I appreciate David's invitation. Thank you as a church family being willing for them to go away on a sabbatical. I got to do a sabbatical a few years ago, and what a blessing it was. I came back refreshed and ready to go. Preached an extra 15 minutes every week just because I was... No, not really. But I know David will come back refreshed and ready to go. Appreciate your involvement, the Lubbock Area Baptist Association. Appreciate your involvement with Steak Night and the BSM. What an impact that will make to students coming to Texas Tech. Thank you for that. The impact. That is about legacy. Psalm 145, it is a song of David. It's described as the crown jewel of praise. Crown jewel of praise. Magnificent, one author said, magnificent in its beauty and almost breathtaking in its grandeur. That is certainly true. Don't miss it. I think within this psalm, it contains a charge to us to plant. To plant. Listen to it as I read Psalm 145. I exalt you, my God, the King, and praise your name forever and ever. I will praise you every day. I will honor your name forever and ever. Yahweh is great and is highly praised. His greatness is unsearchable. One generation will declare your works to the next. One generation will declare your works to the next. One generation will declare your works to the next and will proclaim your mighty acts. I will speak of your glorious splendor and your wonderful works. They will proclaim the power of your awe-inspiring works, and I will declare your greatness. They will give a testimony of your great goodness and will joyfully sing of your righteousness. The Lord is gracious and compassionate, slow to anger, and great in faithful love. The Lord is good to everyone. His compassion rests on all He has made. I'll title this message, Living a Life That Leaves a Legacy for Eternity. Profound question. What kind of legacy are you building and leaving for those who will come behind you? Every life is an impact life. Now that impact can be positive or it can be negative, but you are leaving an impact to those around you now and those who will follow. What kind will you leave? You are working on yours right this moment by sitting in this sanctuary, whether you know it or not. Your neighbors, your family, they take note of where you are this morning. They know that reality. Someone said, what we are experiencing is a crisis in generational legacy. And then that author adds, too many men, it says, may I add, too many men and women are living to be a legend instead of a legacy. You know the difference between a reputation and a legacy? Let me point out three things, the difference between the two. A reputation is who you are supposed to be. Your legacy is who you really were. Catch the tense? Who you really were. At the end of the race. The fragrance that you leave at the end. Second, a reputation is made in a moment. Legacy is built over the lifetime, the running of the race of life over a lifetime. Third, reputation is what is said about you on your tombstone. Reputation. Legacy is what your children and your grandchildren and your friends and co-workers, etc., will live with for the rest of their life because of their bumping up against you. The relationship to you. You know, the truth is, the question is not what kind of legacy are you going to leave? The real question is, who is my legacy? I'm blessed to have my granddaughter here today and her friend. Who is your legacy? Who? Martin Luther was asked what he would do if he knew that he was going to die the next day. He said, I'd go out and plant a tree. Really? Go plant a tree? Why? Because he would be able to leave a legacy for those who would come after him. The challenge, plant a mighty bur oak tree with your faith life. It's intentional. Let me give you 3 steps to plant a legacy, a faith legacy that lasts. The first one is this, an intellectual legacy of blessing. Intellectual. Look at our passage. We see it in David's life. Verse 1, David's knowledge. God is king. Intellectual. He knew this. above all kings. He knew this. Verses 3 and verse 6, God is great. And then he says His greatness is unsearchable. Who is like our God? None. No one is like our God. Unsearchable. Something sought, unsearchable, but cannot be found. We cannot know all of who God is the idea there. Unsearchable. In verses 5 and 6, the glory of the splendor of the majesty of God, David says. He was overwhelmed intellectually by the bigness and the greatness of his God. When was the last time we were caught in that reality? Get it? David is trying to cognitively grasp who God is in his own mind, the mystery and the might, the majesty of God. Mentally, he's trying to understand that. It's like trying to explain to a little child how an acorn like this can produce a mighty tree that sits in my front yard. How can that be? That is the truth of our God. Psalm 19:1, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the skies proclaim the work of His hand. Psalm 8, O Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. See, King David was mentally, intellectually trying to grasp the greatness of God. Romans 11 in the Message says, is there anyone around who can explain God? Everything comes from Him and happens through Him and ends up in Him. Can anyone here explain God? Of course not. He's too big, too majestic. If you go back to our passage, verses 7 and 9, the attributes that David mentally, cognitively, with his mind, he knew of God: abundant in goodness, graciousness, slow to anger, compassionate, great in love. And all of these are written by David in the text as overwhelming. It's too great to measure in all of these. Hear them again: abundant goodness, gracious, slow to anger, compassionate, great in love. It's telling us God is the final standard on each of those qualities. God defines them. God lives them. God is those qualities. How do we plant a blessing in the next generation? How do we plant that blessing? We learn all that we can about God ourselves. We dig into God's Word. We study. We hear messages brought by our pastor. We do all we can to learn all we can about our God, cognitively grasping with our mind who God is. Fill your mind with the greatness and the goodness of God. First, how do we leave a legacy? Intellectually. We have to know God intellectually. Second then, is the intimacy. Intimate legacy of blessing. If you look at verses 1 and 2, David says, I will exalt my God. Out of David's personal knowledge of God, naturally, wouldn't you think, naturally, flowed out intimacy for God. Woo. He adds, I will bless and praise you. He says, I will honor God's name. Name speaks of God's character. It speaks of God's attributes. It speaks of the substance of who God is, that He knows intellectually. Now it's moved to His heart because there's an intimate expression then for love and devotion to God. I will kneel in honor of you, O God, he is saying. Verse 5, I will speak of your glorious splendor. He adds, I will speak of your wonderful works. Verse 6, I will declare your greatness. He couldn't help himself, but let it flow out. You know, Satan has full knowledge of God, but he doesn't do this. We ought to be a growing knowledge of God, but there ought to be then this expression of intimacy and amazement in reference to God. Oh, I will declare your greatness. David couldn't fathom knowing the unsearchable greatness and goodness of God and his heart being silent. He couldn't fathom it. He couldn't imagine being apathetic with the knowledge of his God and knowing Him personally. He couldn't imagine it being empty, his heart being empty. This psalm was read twice a day, once in the morning, once in the evening. Note, every day they would start their day with this psalm. Every day they would finish their day with this song. And then it says forever and ever, literally to the end of time. David determined not a day would pass without an intimate expression of love and devotion to his God. Every day. Started the day and ended the day. Every single day. Hear me carefully. Hear me. My daily, intimate, all response to God ought to be a testimony to how great and majestic and mighty and wonderful He is to me. To me. And it ought to be that way for you as well. My God. Hear the person. David says, you are my God. Can you say, He is my God? There's that heart devotion. My intimate, loving God, He is. Listen, how do we plant blessing in the next generation? First, we have cognitive knowledge of God. Then we have heart expression. Heart, intimate love for Him. Heart love for Him. And then the third step, inspiring legacy of blessing. Inspiring intimacy ought to be the third. Look at verses 4 through 6. One generation will tell, declare, testify, inspire the next generation. Literally could read, one generation's praise will inform the next generation. The praise of one generation plants seed in the next generation. Plant seeds of praise and adoration and love in the next generation. Our praise expression plants seed in the next generation. Literally, David saw himself on a holy relay race, and the task was to pass on the praise to his majestic God to the generations that would follow after him. He saw that as his task, his act, what he should be about doing. David is saying we are not to just teach dry facts to the next generation, but we are to inspire them with our exaltation of our God. One author said, every generation is to catch the praises of faith from the last, echo them, and pass them on to the next generation. Catch them, speak them, and pass them on to the next generation. Pass them on. Someone passed them on to you, I bet. And pass them on. Then you pass them on to the next generation. I read of a young salesman who lost a major sale to a corporation. He lost a major sale. He was heartbroken. He went to a friend of his father and was talking to that friend, and he said to that friend of his father, he said, I guess you could lead a horse to water, but you can't make that horse drink. And the friends of the father said, wait a second. It's not your responsibility to make them drink. It's your responsibility to make them thirsty. It's our responsibility to make the next generation thirsty. We can't make them drink. We want to force them, here, drink this or else. But our lives should be a testimony of our knowledge of God, of our devotion, our intimacy with God. And that intimacy then expressed through our mouths and our actions. And we make the next generation go, I want that. I want that for myself. Someone said, parents who do not exalt over God in their lifestyle will not bring about exaltation of God in their children and their grandchildren. If we live long enough, in our great-grandchildren as well. Verse 7, David adds, and I will joyfully sing. In the original language, that is strong wording, that it's loud. I will sing loud unto my God. Full expression unto my God. Live loud. We need to live loud with songs of praise on our heart and our lips unto our God. Live loud. The worst thing we can do for the next generation is to be praiseless in our own generation, in our own lives. Oh, don't we realize we're just one generation away from a no praise generation? Just one generation away. That ought to cause us to step back and to wait and to examine, what does my life look like in reference to those who are following after me? How loud is my praise? Bless the next generation. Praise loud. Fill your lips with praise in reference to God and His goodness and His greatness and His majesty. Fill your life with actions that speak of praise unto God. Your life and your lips. Oh, listen to me. I know you know this. Those that are close to my age. It's up to us to pass on the praise to the next generation. Children and grandchildren. We need to take that responsibility, but it starts with knowledge, cognitive knowledge of God, who God is. And then intimacy with God, spending time in love with God. And then it's going to ooze out in expression, exaltation of God. Oh, how do we plant that legacy? We must be intentional. I love the image. Let your legacy be paying it back and forward, back and forward, back and forward. Think about it for a second. Think about a long line of people. Now, I'm doing it here, you do it in front of you. Think of a long line of people, and you can't even see the end. But you look to try to see the end of the line. You can't see the end, guarantee it. But you get to look, and you get to coming this way, and you look face after face after face after face until not too far down, but a ways down, you suddenly realize and you recognize, oh, I know that face. Maybe it was a great-grandparent or grandparent or parent or cousin, aunt, uncle, or a friend. I know that face. And then I know that face. I know that face. I know that face. I know that face. And then it's to you. And you realize you are the legacy of their faith. They passed it on and passed it on and passed it on until you caught it. It's yours now. You hold to it. You've got the knowledge. You've got the intimate heart. You've got the expression because of those who were before you. Oh, easily I see my grandparents, Meta, Texas. I see my mom, especially in Brownville, Texas. I see Sunday school teachers, church members that invested in me. Little Jerry Joplin, who was a pain, but they invested in me. You ever thank God for those people? Shouldn't we do that? Thank you, God, for those who made it so I might hear and I might know you. But then wait. Who's coming behind you? Who's following? Who's next behind you? That if you look far enough, you go, well, I don't even know who that is. But whoever it was right before them knew who it was. And they lead their back to you and your knowledge and your expression and your willingness to share Jesus. And it goes on. It goes on. How's the line forming behind you? Another tree legacy that you've heard. The true meaning of life is to plant trees under which shade you do not expect to sit. My tree, can you go back one slide if you can? If not, it's okay. If you could, I caught you off guard. I know I told you. But if you can, the next one then, or the first one, with the whole canopy of that tree. I researched it. A bur oak tree. They produce a lot of big acorns, by the way. You break that ankle. I've been up my insurance in case somebody breaks their ankle on my acorn. That tree was planted approximately 50 years ago, give or take. Research says that baby could live 300 years. Oh, I think we're about the fourth family that's on that house. And we're not going to live in that house forever. So someone else is going to buy it and get the blessing of that tree. And then probably someone else. And how many generations will be blessed by that tree? How many generations will be blessed by your faithfulness and expression of love to Jesus? Another tree truth that I finish with. It is, ask when is the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. Wish I'd have done that 20 years ago. When is the second best time to plant a tree? Today. Today. Let's go plant trees.